Carl here. The channel is Programming in Any Language. The supporting website is www.black-duck.com. The video is TrimStart, and TrimEnd. When you work with databases, you'll find that the data stored in a database is fixed. By that, I mean if you have a first name field, it is typically set for a certain number of characters. Imagine a 15-character field for the first name. If you're storing the name Sam, S-A-M, in that field, then you have 3 characters and 12 space characters in that name. If you have a first name like Tyrannosaurus Rex, the database will only store the first 15 characters. The rest is truncated. Now, when you use data stored in the database, you typically want to remove the spaces from the field so you can concatenate the name and display it like Mr. Sam Spade. Same with dollar amounts. You may have a set of leading or trailing spaces attached to a dollar amount. You want to remove that for display purposes. That's where TrimStart, and TrimEnd come into play. These are very useful methods for working with string data, and you'll use them a lot. Watch this video. Probably one of the most useful methods we can use when it comes to text processing is the trim method. It allows you to remove spaces off the beginning and ending of strings, both or just one or the other. It had many names in the past. I think I used to call this thing in BASIC. I think it was called trim left, trim right. And now it's called TrimStart, TrimEnd, and trim. And as we see on the screen right now, we've got something called the TrimStart method. And basically you take your variable and you say TrimStart. And what it does, it removes all leading spaces from the string. Take a look at a little example of this thing. If we have a string right here, I am a string, and this is 30 characters long, with a lot of blanks in the front, a lot of blanks in the back end on this thing. And if we use the TrimStart, it's going to remove all these pieces right here. So it'll kind of look like this when we're all done. Well, it'll get rid of that, and you'll have your string there in a new variable, or in a variable, still blanks in the back end if you wanted them, and plus the string itself. I am a string sitting out there in the rest of the area. We also have TrimEnd, where we take the variable and we trim the ending spaces off the string. And if we look at I am a string, our string variable 30 characters long, including spaces, and we trim that thing off, it chops off the end of this thing. So you end up with about 5, 10, 15, 21 characters long from 30 characters long. It retains the beginning blanks, but it removes all the ending blanks on top of it. We also have the trim method, which probably is more useful. Well, maybe not. It depends on what you're actually doing. And returns a string with all the leading and trailing spaces removed. It does both, basically. And so we got a string var trim method. If you take that same string, I am a string, and apply the trim method to it, you get I am a string in your variable. What is this? That looks like 10, 11, 12 characters long, and everything else is removed from it. Very, very useful when you get to work with this kind of thing. But how do you get strings with all these spaces? Well, it's pretty common, actually. It can come from a lot of things, especially getting outside data. This is an Access database. I'm just going to take you out to an Access database real quickly to let you see what this looks like. This is Access. I've got a test database, very simple database here. And this works the same as SQL or Oracle or Microsoft SQL, any of the databases that are out there. There's many, many databases that are out there. But basically what you're doing is you're actually creating a list of fields, much like a spreadsheet, that have a constant length to them. We're not going to do a database lesson here. What we're going to be doing is just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. If I wanted a database, I would set up these different fields. And this one happens to be called, we're going to name this first name. We'll just name it first, last. And if you notice that each of these things, this particular first as a short text, I can change it to anything I want. I could actually make it long text, number, date, time, whatever I wanted. I'm keeping it as short text, and allows you to give it a size of 20 in this case. The last name is also 20, and the price is sitting here as currency, so it's sitting out there like that. If we look at what the table looks like with data in it, I'll save the table. And we've got Daffy Duck in here, $55, Elmer Fudd, $200, and so on the line. And what's happening is all of these names are sitting inside a field that is 20 characters long. If you had a name that was larger than 20 characters long, it wouldn't fit, and those last characters would get truncated from the end of it. You'd end up with something with just the 20 characters. But this is typical for database. And when you bring these things into programs, you often bring these names in with the spaces included. And we'll take a look at that. I'm going to do an external data piece here and basically bring us into a text file. And I can do that. I'm going to actually save this thing in a folder that I've got set up someplace. I've got this folder called Trim, which we're working with right now, which I'll put in. I'm going to call it Test Guys 3 DB because I've made a couple of copies of this thing already. We'll call it Test Guys 3 database and save it. And what it does for me, it allows me to have some options on here. I'm going to take the defaults that are here and say OK to this thing. And I get this. I get Daffy Duck. And I can bring this in as a text file that's comma delimited. Or I can do a fixed width and bring it in like I would a normal database. And it might have these things in it. And as you can see, all the spacing is sitting in there. So I'm going to do a next in this thing and bring it in and it's to a finish. And suddenly my data is there. And we'll get rid of the database and I'll bring up this file we just brought in, which we've got sitting over here, show it on the screen here, and this is what we've got. So we've got it does number them, it gives you that kind of thing, which you can extract later and bring in the Daffy Duck and this kind of thing. So this is what you end up with in your trim method. So you end up with something like that. We did that here in the slides that I've got over here. I don't have the dollar amount in this particular thing. So let's go forward and let's kind of build this program that's going to show you how you can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a program that's going to allow you to enter a name. Then we're going to use what's common in creating data for a database is you'll add blanks to the variables that are coming in, Daffy D Duck, and save them that way so you've got this fixed length. You'll make them 20 long. And then what we can do later is we'll bring these things in and want to actually use them. We want to trim off those spaces so we can actually create the name Daffy D Duck here, concatenate them in a proper way. So let's take a look and see how this all happens. We've got here is a application that we're going to build, and I'm going to save some time by basically bringing in all the tools that we're going to need in this thing, all the objects, and just paste them on this form. I want to name these things. I don't need to name the first name, middle initial, last name, but I do want to name this, and I actually call this one TXT first name. This is called TXT MI for middle initial, and this one is called TXT last name. I've got a list button here, which is be a button list. I've got a label here, label 4, which is label out 1 is what it actually is. And it's going to show us the blocked version after we bring in our name and address, or our name and last name, first name, middle initial, and add the blanks to them so we get them the right size. We're also going to have a concatenate button, which is going to then display the concatenated version once we read the strings and use trim to get rid of the space we've actually got in. And of course, we've got an exit button in here, which, yeah, look, a good spot for it. Put it in like something like this, and it's happy. So we're good there on what we've actually got. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to my program right away and go ahead and create my text. I'm going to go into my exit button first, since that's the easiest one to do, or the one I like to get rid of right away. So we'll go in there and we'll just say close form. And it's all set to go. So we've got that there. The next thing I want to do is I want to create some variables that we're going to be using for this particular program. So I'm going to create a string, string, str first name. And it's going to hold first name. Next thing we're going to have a string str last name, which is going to hold the last name. And an strmi. Let's hit my cap. There it is, mi, which is going to hold the middle initial. And we're not going to format the middle initial to 20 characters long, because it's, one character is fine for the middle initial. It'll either be there one character, it won't be there, period. And we also want to create something called string str 20 blanks. And we're going to make that equal to, quote, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And we'll put a little semicolon after that thing. And this will be holds 20 blanks. And this will be used to pad the variables that are coming in. So if we end up with Daffy DFFY, we're going to add the 20 blanks to the end of it and then truncate it to 20 characters. We'll get Daffy with 15 blanks following the name. That's what we're going to be looking at there. So what do we want to do? Well, we also want to go to our form. These buttons should be not enabled, and I believe that's why I've got them set here. We'll just try a run on this thing and take a look and see what we've got. And yeah, that's exactly what we've got, the list and the concatenate. You can't do anything until you actually enter something up here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and go into this last name text property and double click on it and create the changed event. And that change event is going to allow us to turn on those buttons. So we're going to say btn concatenate.enable is equal to true. And same with btn list. We'll turn that one on right away too, so they can actually function. So that if we put a first name, last name, middle initial in there, those buttons will be then available so we can actually work on them. Next thing to do is to create the list. We're going to create this button right here. So I'm going to drop down into this list and go ahead and do some code in this thing. And what I'd like to do is bring in the text and apply the blanks to it. I'm going to do this two ways. One way for the first name and one way for the last name, so you get an idea of how you can actually shorten this if you want, or it's up to you how you're going to do it. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to take str first name and I'll make it equal to txt first name dot text plus I'm going to add 20 blanks to it. str 20 blanks. And that's it. Then I'm going to go down here and str first name is going to be equal to str first name dot substring 0, 20. And that's going to give me the first 20 characters of this concatenated version I've actually got up here. I'm also going to bring in my str middle initial. It's going to be equal to txt middle initial dot text. Not going to do anything to that, nothing fancy. And then we're going to take the last name, bring it in the same way we did the first name, except we're going to make some changes to this, do this on one line, just so you get an idea of what's going on here. So str last name is going to be equal to, and we'll need to put a parenthesis around this, so txt last name dot text plus str 20 blanks, and then we're going to say dot substring 0 for 20. And that is equivalent to what we did up in the first name here, but it's done on one line. So we're concatenating the blanks on the name here and taking the substring of it on one line. So you can do it this way, or you can do it up here and on two lines. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, how you actually want to do this. This is, I think, more meaningful. You can actually see what's happening here. Down here, you're doing it in one line, so it can be confusing to someone who's trying to read this code and doesn't know exactly what you did. Let's give this a comment here. And let's say, bring in first name. And on this one, we'll simply say, append blanks. Oh, no, take substring. Oh, bring in first name, apply substring. Bring in first name plus blanks up here. There we go. So we want to actually say the label out here. And we'll say lbl out1 dot text is equal to str last name plus str first name plus str mi, and stop right there. And that's going to give us the truncation or the alignment that we are looking to have with our padded blanks in there. We'll run this thing. We'll put in our Daffy Duck. Do our list, and there's Daffy D sitting in there. You can see how they're 20 characters long, 20 characters long, and you got the D. And this is great for if you want to apply something to a database that has fixed fields in it. you can get them up there, and your program is going to be able to make sure that you actually have those proper fields in there. And you just append this or import this to a database, and you're set to go. Now let's look at the concatenation piece. Now we've done this. We don't want to use names like this when we're actually reporting out to users. So we want to be able to fix this piece here. So we'll go hit an exit on here, and we'll go to our concatenate button, and this will be fairly straightforward. We're simply going to say lbl out2 dot text is equal to str first name dot trim. And I'm going to do this two ways. We're going to make this TrimEnd, and then plus a space and plus a strmi and plus a space and then plus str last name dot trim. And we'll just use, so we're using the first name TrimEnd here, and the last name we're just using trim, which trims everything. And here TrimEnd, we'll just get rid of the end. We could have used TrimEnd here too. We could use trim here. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, as long as you're applying it and getting what you want out of this thing. Do a file save on this. Start it. There we go. Daffy DUCK. Our list blocks it, so we've got those spaces included. If we want to use it, we use the trim method to actually bring this in place, and we get Daffy deduct here. So we get a nice version of this thing coming in and spacing it out properly. So we can use it either way. So that's how trim works on this thing. All right, let's go ahead and do a breakpoint on this thing so you can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I think we just need it here. That's probably all we need. We'll run it, do our Daffy deduct, DAFF-D-D-U-C-K, do our list. It stops dead here, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at str first name. We want to do an add watch to that thing. We want the str middle initial to be watched. Not that we're going to do anything to that. And the str last name. Watch this thing as well and see what's coming on here. And we're going to actually end up doing F11 to go through this process and get it. We're getting the first name. And the first name comes in as Daffy. And you notice the space is already in there because it brought in and applied the blanks to it right away. And then it's going to truncate it. It's actually got a bunch of blanks. It's going to truncate it, so I can actually move that thing over right here so it's 20 characters long. Now we're going to bring in the last name. We got the middle initial came in, D, and the last name's coming in, and we're going to do it in one fell swoop. So we just do that like that, and notice how we've got our duck is in now in here with the padded blanks as well. So that's all we need to do. We end up with the program coming back to us. We do a concatenate, and the program is done and actually operates. There it is. It comes back to us this way. So that's what it is. That's how you actually use trim. TrimEnd, TrimStart. I'm thinking it's still trim left and trim right because of the old basic days from many, many years ago. But TrimEnd, TrimStart work, and trim itself works well. So that's what trim is all about. Very useful method in working with text files.
These text processing videos cover just about all the methods we use when working with text. To see good examples of how these tools are used, take a look at the text processing application videos on the site. There are so many different ways these tools will come in handy. Thanks for watching. Visit the website when you get a chance, and please subscribe to the channel. There's more stuff coming every week. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.